Welcome to Dr. Jester Rants. I'm gonna rant about this. This is from her own personal website. Personal news, why I'm now leaving MSNBC. It's interesting of how she's approaching this, especially because apparently she does have a conscience. And quite frankly, kudos to her. And well done. Congratulations, you did well. Well, obviously what she says here is pretty much the standard on those mainstream media outlets. Anyway, reading the news, just quit. That's the advice Alec gave a year and a half ago when I expressed my concerns about my job. You just quit. It's that simple. Stay at MSNBC at least until the midterms, Jeffrey said a couple of years back. He advised to watch and see what happens. Hang in there. You are needed, Elizabeth recommended last winter. I was in your shoes when I was younger, but I stuck it out. A year and a half ago, simply quitting my job without knowing my next step sounded pretty radical, so I stuck it out a bit longer until we were in the middle of a pandemic to make a truly radical move. On July 24th July 24 was my last day at MSNBC. I don't know what I'm going to do next exactly, but I simply couldn't stay there anymore. My colleagues were very smart people with good intentions. The problem is the job itself. It forces skilled journalists to make bad decisions on a daily basis. That's true. That's very correct. That's pretty much what I've been saying a few times before. For instance, most of the journalists today are actually activists and not in itself journalists anymore. Journalists are there to expose and show or inform the person. It's there to inform what is happening in a local or in a place. It's there to inform you, not to give you opinions or drive the public around based on a narrative. It's simple as that. It's not there to do anything else. The problem is that today, well, it was happening in the past as well, and the press hasn't never been too great in keeping its personal opinions out, but it was acceptable in an acceptable level in the past. But in the last couple of years, I think around 2013 to now-ish, more or less, it's an arbitrary number. I'm just simply picking it. What I felt was more or less the time the media started to change too much, that it became way too noticeable, but I could be wrong. Either way, from the last couple of years, the journalists have become really activists, and they have become insufferable pricks as well. We can see that on this Covington kids. They drove a narrative up and down, and turns out they were wrong, and they still kept doing it. Then the Covington kids sued them. It sued a few of those outlets, and as it turns out, they settled. But apparently, some journalists are still not getting the message, and they still kept talking about it and spreading fake news. And what are going to happen? They are going to sue them again. They don't learn. They also come in to the people in there. Okay, so this is a narrative. Find news that fits this narrative. Or, this is the narrative. Please change the news accordingly. That's how they are doing it as of late, at least in the mainstream media, and obviously, the medias too, but they have been going on way too out of control. to say the least. But even in the mainstream media, you still have people who are like, well, like Ariana here, at least she grew a conscience. I'm not saying that she's still going to peddle fake news or that she is not going to let her personal biases infect or whatever she does next. But at least in this case, in this particular case, she grew a conscience and she did the right thing. And then, well, what I was going to comment in regards to the mainstream media is that even some mainstream medias, they still have some that doesn't quite do what most are doing, like MSNBC, for instance, like Fox News. They peddle fake news, without a doubt. They peddle a narrative when they see it. They do it all the time, exactly like MSNBC, CNN, etc. But there is always a but. Fox News does it less than MSNBC, less than CNN. And Tucker Carlson is one of those few people who I actually admire on Fox News. Anyway, with that being said, between one that peddles full fake news like CNN, one that peddles less fake news like Fox, I prefer Fox in this case. Because why? Less is better than more in this case. Anyway, back to the news. Well, on July 24 was my last day on MSNBC. I don't know what I'm going to do next exactly, but I simply couldn't... Oh, I already read this. You may not watch MSNBC, but just know that this problem still affects you too. The commercial network functions the same, and no doubt that their content seeps into your social media feed one way or the other. Exactly what I said in the comments before. It's possible that I'm more sensitive to the editorial process due to my background in public radio, where no decision I ever witnessed was predicated on how a topic or a guest would rate. The longer I was at MSNBC, the more I saw such choices. It's practically baked into the editorial process, and those decisions affect news content every day. Likewise, it's taboo to discuss how the rating scheme distorts the content. Or it's simply taken for granted, because everyone in the commercials broadcast news industry is doing the exact same thing. And that's exactly what I just said about Fox News. They do it without a question, without a single doubt or question. And she actually also did an update on this. Fox News ended up proving her right, proving exactly what she said here. But as usual, Fox does the less of it. It's not a good excuse, but it's better than most, really. But behind closed doors, industry leaders will admit the damage that's being done. We are a cancer and there is no cure. She's absolutely 100% correct. A successful and insightful TV veteran said to me, but if you could find a cure, it will change the world. I agree. Exactly. This sentence, this paragraph here, this sentence, what this guy said here is, it's the cherry on top, and this is the well, I don't need to explain it. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Anyway, reading the news. As it is, the Kansas stokes the national division. Even in the middle of a civil rights crisis, the model blocks diversity of thought and content because the network have incentives to amplify fringe voices and events at the expense of others, all because it pumps up the ratings. And this is another thing that she's absolutely 100% correct. Because the more fringe you are, the more they peddle fake news, the crazier it is, the more clicks it drives towards their website, or in this case, on a TV. Then the more clicks, the more people goes and watches their news, their channel. and then the more ads they can sell. So they end up bringing in the crazy people, the mentally ill people to their side, and well, we can see the crisis we are facing today. So much so that most of the control left, or the people to extreme left, are mostly insane, medically insane. Yes. Or they are medically, well, not technically insane as in, but I'm being using a bit of a hyperbole in there, but I mean they are mostly crazy, or they have a underlying medical condition, an underlying mental condition. Anyway, back to the news. The cancer risks human lives even in the middle of a pandemic. The primary focus quickly became what Donald Trump was doing poorly to address the crisis rather than the science itself, as new details have become available about antibodies, a vaccine, and how the Wu flu actually spreads. Producers still want to focus on the politics. Important facts or studies gets buried, and that's exactly what happened with the hydroxychloroquine. And they needed to drive a narrative to the point that people actually believe that the drug itself is completely useless and it actually hurts everyone, and that anyone could get it. That's not quite true. The drug works, it seems to work. It's more of a patchwork solution, as in it's the best we've got, but it still works only if you catch it or do it early. And it will not prevent infection. It will simply help you go through it by weakening the virus. As simple as that. It's more of a patchwork. It's not a cure or anything like that. But the media absolutely needed. I'm emphasizing this because the media needed a scapegoat to attack Trump. So if Trump even said, "I've cured cancer," the media and the mainstream media will say, "No, we are against it. No, what about the rights of cancer? What about the oncologists?" And there it goes. The TDS is too much. It's completely out of control with these people. Sorry. I just ate. This cancer risks our democracy, even in the middle of a presidential election. Any discussion about the election usually focuses on Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. A repeat offense from 2016. Trump's models all other coverage. Also important is to ensure citizens can vote by mail this year, but I've watched the topic get ignored or killed numerous times. And that is true. They actually ignore the mail frauds. It's pervasive. It shows it. They mostly report it, but on local news stations. Nationwide, they don't. They usually just peddle some fake news. For instance, peaceful protesters burn certain place. That's what they cover, but they don't cover this. Context and factual data are often considered too cumbersome for the audience. There may be some truth to that. Our education system really should improve the critical thinking skills of Americans, but another hard truth is that the job of journalists to teach and inform, which means they might need to figure out a better way to do that. They could contemplate more creative methods for captivating an audience. Just about anything would improve the current process, which can be pretty rudimentary. Think basing today's content on whatever rated well yesterday, or look to see what's trending online today. And they do that, they go to Twitter and then spurg out from there. Occasionally, the producers will choose to do a topic or a story without regard for how they think it will rate, but that is the exception, not the rule. Due to the simple structure of the industry, the desire to charge more money for commercials, as well as the ratings bonuses that top-tier decision-makers earn, they always relapse into their old profitable programming habits. That's exactly what I explained before. What drives most people to watch their channel means more money on the commercials. I understand that the journalist's process is largely subjective, and any group of individuals may justify a different set of priorities on any given day. Therefore, it's particularly notable to me, for one, that nearly every rundown at the network basically is the same, hour after hour, and two, they use the subjective nature of the news to justify economically beneficial decisions. I've even heard producers deny their role as journalists. A very capable senior producer once said, "Oh, viewers don't really consider us the news, they come to us for comfort." And that's how CNN keeps peddling stuff. That's why most people end up sharing CNN from the control left, because it's comfort for them. It supports their narrative. Again, personally, I don't think that people need to change. I think the job itself needs to change. There is a better way to do this. I'm not so cynical to think we are absolutely doomed, though we are on that path. I know we can find a cure, and if we can figure out how to send a man to the moon, if Alex Trebek can defy the odds with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and if Harry Reid can actually overcome pancreatic cancer, he's now cancer-free, then we can fix this too. Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced. Exactly what I said. The problem is that although I disagree a little bit in what she said in there, I think people need to change as well a little, because there's way too many journalists who are more interested on their egos. They are too self-centered, narcissistic bastards to actually accept anything, and they suffer from a very absurd level of TDS. They will, like I said on the Covington situation, they will not shut up because they are too narcissistic. And so they get sued again. Because, well, they haven't learned the first time. Maybe the second time they'll learn. It doesn't matter. You also need to stop being an activist. You need to be a journalist. A journalist is not an activist. You can't be an activist, sure, but not when you're reporting the news. When you report the news, you just state the facts, nothing more. I know James Baldwin wasn't thinking about MSNBC when he wrote that line in 1962, but those words spoke loudly to me in the summer of 2020. Unfortunately, many of the same ailments are still at stake today. Now, maybe we can't really change the inherently broken structure of broadcast news, but I know for certain that it won't change unless we actually face it in public and at least try to change it. Though this pandemic and the surreal alienating lockdown, yes, I agree, it's pretty alienating, the lockdown we are facing. I've witnessed many people question their lives and what they are doing with their time on this planet. I reckon I'm one of those people looking for greater meaning and truth. As much as I love my life in New York City and I really don't want to leave, I feel fortunate to be able to return to Virginia in the near term to reconnect with family, friends, and a community of independent journalists. I'm both nervous and excited about this change. Thanks to Wu Flu, I'm learning to live with uncertainty. And so very soon I'm going to be seeking you out and what... Jesus Christ. I'm going to be seeking you out, any one of you who also may sense that the news is fundamentally flawed and is frustrated by it. This effort will start informally, but I hope to crystallize a plan for when better, safer days are upon us. On that front, feel free to reach out anytime if you'd like to discuss any of this, whether in agreement or not. More than ever, I'm craving a full and civil discourse. That's absolutely correct. That's what I support. She is absolutely to the point and correct. I'm craving a full and civil discourse. That's exactly how we move forward as a society, as a civilization. We need to be civil. We need to be people. We need to be humans, not animals attacking or fighting between each other over a dead carcass laying there. We need to be civil. We need to full and civil discuss. We need to exchange ideas. We need to be peaceful with one another. The other person is actually a human being, even if it looks like a land whale with pink hair. It's still a human being. You might mock and do other things. I'm guilty of that. I love mocking these people, but in the end, they're still human beings. Let's be full and civil. Let's open a discourse. Civil and full. Craving a full and civil discourse. Absolutely 100% agree with her. No ifs, no buts. Until next time, thank you for reading. I wish you all well. Thank you, Ariana. I wish you well. I wish you well as well. Well, that was a lot of wells. Well, there isn't much more for me to talk about this, only that I fully agree with her. Well done, you actually have a conscience. Hopefully whatever endeavors you take doesn't make you one of the people or the reason why you left MSNBC. Hopefully you stick to the truth and nothing but the truth when you when you start again your job as a journalist, or by the looks of it, someone independent, or an independent agency or something like that. So thank you, Ariana, for standing up and for having a conscience. Thank you, and I wish you well on all your endeavors, regardless of what you do with them. Thank you for watching, everyone. See you all in my next video. Good night.